If you've ever felt like you are losing someone, even though they are still very much alive, they're still here, but you already feel like you are losing them, today's episode is for you. Most people think that grief begins only after someone has died, but sometimes grief begins much, much earlier. Sometimes it begins while the person is still alive. Our loved one is still very much with us, and this happens when illness slowly changes them. Sometimes they lose their memory, sometimes their personality shifts, and you can see that physically they're still alive. But it feels to you like this is not the same person that you know that is still here with you. It's like a shell of them. Their essence, the real them, has already left. You don't recognize them. You don't know how to deal with them anymore. You are taking care of them and you are holding faith, but something in you is telling you that this person is already not here. They're gone. When my mother was living with Alzheimer's and dementia, I often found myself asking this painful question: where is my mom? What happened to that capable, warm, considerate, kind, attentive, protective, most caring person I've known all my life? Where is she? Where is the mom that I used to have? Even though she was still alive, it felt like I'd already lost her. And it's very painful. And this experience has a name. It's called anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief occurs when we begin grieving someone before they are actually dead. Before the death actually happens, already in your spirit, you're already grieving them. This often happens when someone we love is living with a very serious condition. It could be a long-term illness. It could be a physical decline. Maybe they are unable to take care of themselves anymore. It could be a cognitive decline. They've lost their memory. It could be a long hospitalization, someone who's been in a coma for a long time, or somebody who's just been in hospital for months or weeks, or a terminal illness, somebody who's got cancer, or somebody who's got diabetes, or somebody who's got heart disease. It could be anything. You just know that this person, as you knew them before, they're no longer there. In this situation, families begin to feel emotional pain of the loss long before the loss actually happens. Before they physically pass away, the person already is being grieved by their loved ones. And there's a pain that you cannot explain because most of the time you do not understand what is going on. And this can be deeply, deeply confusing because the person is still there. They've not passed on, but the relationship is already changing. So before we go deeper into this conversation, let me briefly introduce myself for those who are new here. My name is Gugu Mofokeng. I'm the founder of Arise Love Coaching. I'm an integrative stress resolution specialist. I help individuals to resolve stress from its roots, not just manage and cope with it. My work focuses on helping people identify and resolve the root causes of their stress that remain beneath the surface of their lives. In my own life, I've experienced this personally. While caring for my mother during her illness with Alzheimer's, as I said, and dementia, there were many moments when I felt something I didn't have words for. I didn't know how to explain what I was going through. It felt as though the person that I knew was slowly disappearing, even though she was still physically present. Many families experience this, but they often don't realize what is going on, and they don't understand that the experience that they are going through has a name. It is called anticipatory grief. The emotional response experienced before an impending loss, you know that somebody is going to die. You know it. You've seen the signs. You wish You could wish it away. You wish it wasn't happening. Sometimes there are moments of faith where you believe they're going to make it, but deep down, you know that this person is only just a matter of time. They are going to go. So because of that impending loss, you start to expect their death. You expect the death of your loved one. It feels like you're living with an axe that is hanging above your head. You know it will strike, but you don't know when it will strike. And it's a terrible feeling. Anticipatory grief brings very, very complex emotions with it. You may feel sad because obviously it's one of the main emotions that are associated with loss. Sadness is. You feel helpless. You don't know what to do. You don't know how you can help them. You feel frustrated. You feel guilty. You feel anxious, sometimes even depressed. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to help them. You don't know how to help yourself. You feel actually bad for feeling like that because you know that already something is going to happen. So some people even feel moments of relief when the suffering of their loved one finally ends, and then they feel guilty for feeling that way. It's natural. We're still going to talk about that in coming videos. So these emotions can be very, very difficult to talk about because sometimes, and not even sometimes, most of the time, we judge ourselves for feeling these emotions because we've never been taught about these emotions. We do not know what they mean. We do not know where they come from, and we do not know how to deal with them so that we can heal them. Because people worry about what others will say and that people will misunderstand and judge them, they keep these feelings within themselves. But these feelings are a natural response to a very difficult situation. Loss is never easy. Grief is never easy. So one of the most painful experiences and questions that families go through and ask themselves when they are going through this is, why didn't I understand what was happening earlier? Why? Especially in hindsight, people will later look back and wish they had recognized the signs sooner. Because sometimes you don't recognize the signs that this person is leaving. You don't recognize that it's the end. You're supposed to say goodbye. You're supposed to give them experiences that you'll cherish and they will cherish as well in the last days of their lives. Sometimes you focus on looking after them. You focus on providing for them, taking care of them. And then in hindsight, you wish you had understood sooner so that you could handle it in a different way. And this may lead to guilt. Moments where you are impatient, moments where you are confused by the changes of your loved one's behavior, because that is very, very difficult. Sometimes when people are sick, when they are terminally sick, their behavior changes. Sometimes they become impossible to deal with. Sometimes they become frustrated, they become irritable, they become very angry, they do not want to cooperate. They are just very, very difficult to deal with. So it makes you feel guilty when you look back and you think, oh, I didn't see it coming. Because sometimes you were so focused on getting them better. You wanted them to get well. And you didn't even want to think about the possibility of them leaving you. But it's important to remember that many illnesses, especially degenerative conditions like dementia that I've been talking about, they develop very, very gradually. It's not something that develops overnight. So the changes are gradual, and sometimes you don't notice them until it's too late. So families and caregivers often understand the full picture only in hindsight, when they think back and they join the pieces together, they join the dots and they see, oh, now it makes sense. So unless you are a trained caregiver and you know what to expect, you know what you're looking for, you will not have this insight. You'll only see it in hindsight. You did your best with the resources that you had at the time. So just be kind to yourself. You went through a lot yourself because it takes a lot to look after somebody who is terminally ill. So anticipatory grief places people in a very, very difficult emotional situation. You are caring for someone who is still alive, while already you are grieving this person that you once knew, because you don't recognize them. Most of the time, you don't recognize them, who they have become. This is hard. Maybe it's not their personality, but physically, they've lost weight. They don't look the same way they used to look. They don't have the same capabilities that they used to have. They used to be able to look after themselves. They can't anymore. They used to be fluent in their speech. They can't speak anymore. And you don't really recognize who this person, you know who they are, but there's a part of you that just doesn't understand what is going on. This means that your heart is holding two realities at the same time. You've got this love for the person who's still here, who's alive, who's in front of you, who you see daily. And then you've got the grief for the person who's slowly changing. You can see that they're changing and you feel so helpless. You do not know what to do for them. You do not know how to handle this situation. You do not know what is going on, what to do with what you see. So there's that emotional tension, and it can be very, very exhausting. Emotionally and mentally, it's very, very exhausting. Many caregivers, especially whether you are a trained caregiver or you're just a family member or a parent or a child of somebody who is terminally ill, if you are a caregiver, you always feel that you need to be strong during this time. You focus on caring for your loved one. That's where all your focus goes. You just want to see them getting better. You suppress your own emotions. You neglect even your own needs. I remember when my mom was sick and she was terminally ill, there were times I didn't even have time to clip my own nails. It seems like such a simple thing, but because you are weighed down emotionally and mentally, you don't even have the inclination to do small things for yourself, physical stuff, food, eating, rest, dressing yourself, making sure that you look good, bathing. Sometimes you don't even have time to bath. I'm not even talking about grooming. You can't even make or have time to groom yourself. Sometimes you don't even have relief. No one else is there to help you, whether because you don't have anyone else or other people are just not prepared. So it takes its toll on you physically. And then there's the emotional part where your emotions are all over the place. There's no one to understand. You cannot show the person who's sick what you're going through. You cannot talk to them. And sometimes you've got no one to talk to. Even if you do have people to talk to, people just don't understand you. They don't understand what you're going through. And it's worse when there's more of you in the family. Maybe you've got siblings, you've got people who could be helping, who could be taking some of the load, but they're just not prepared. It takes its toll on you. You start to develop resentment and bitterness because you're the only person who's looking after this person, and you feel like people don't care about you. They don't care about your feelings. And then spiritually as well, it takes its toll on you spiritually. Sometimes you don't even get time to pray or meditate or just do things for yourself. Just have your me time. You can't. I'm not even talking about the financial implications. Sometimes you find that you are the one who's taking care of all the expenses and the expenses are piling up. And you've got this dilemma where you want to help, but on the other hand, finances are no longer allowing you to do that. You don't know what to do. Some people even have to quit their jobs to look after a terminally ill relative or a partner. Maybe people are on less pay because they are working less hours in order to be able to have time to look after their loved ones. So this is very, very stressful. But talking about caregivers also need compassion. They also need space to feel what they are experiencing. You'll find that emotionally you feel a lot of guilt, sometimes even regret. You feel that you're not doing enough. You feel that you need help. And sometimes you even feel guilty about needing help. You feel so frustrated because there's a lot going on and it's all on you. What about the stress and the overwhelm of looking after a terminally ill person? You are managing another person's needs versus your own needs. You have your own needs, which you need to neglect or balance, but then the priority is looking after the person who is sick. This is very heavy. and the confusion and the helplessness that results from that. Watching someone suffer, you feel helpless, you do not know what to do, you are trying to keep them hopeful, but deep down you have lost hope. You do not know what to do. You do not know what to say to them. Sometimes it shows because we are human. Sometimes you just lose it and they can see, and you can see the pain in them, and you do not know how to deal with it because they can see that you are feeling confused, you are feeling helpless, maybe you are feeling angry, you are frustrated, because the anger and the frustration that happens sometimes because of their difficult behavior, or sometimes you not having any support, because you are human, sometimes it slips out. And then what about the loneliness and the isolation that you feel as a caregiver looking after a terminally ill person? Because your life stops. Your life stops. You don't have time to socialize. You don't have time for your own self. You don't have me time, let alone talking to other people on the phone or visiting friends or just going out just to have a social life. All that disappears. And then the helplessness and the resentment that you feel. You're feeling trapped. You are looking after this person. Maybe you even chose to look after them, but still the resentment is there because you are feeling trapped. Your life has stopped. You don't have a life of your own. During the night, you can't even sleep properly. You have to look after them. During the day, you are tired. Others are not contributing. It's just you. And even if there's others that are contributing, maybe they are unable, maybe they are contributing financially, but physically they are unable to be there. Maybe they are contributing physically, but emotionally they don't have the capacity to support you. They just don't understand what you're going through. And then the exhaustion and the burnout that results from that. Physically, you find yourself tired all the time. All you want is just to sleep, and you can't sleep. Sometimes during the day and at night, you have to wake up constantly, tend to their needs. It just becomes so much. The emotional fatigue that you get, the emotional fatigue that you get. Sometimes you don't even feel empathy for them anymore because you feel that you've had enough. But then there's something positive as well that caregivers usually get. It's the love and the fulfillment that you have. Because when you live with a terminally ill person or you're looking after them, there's a deep connection that you build with this person. And the satisfaction in helping them, especially if they move on and they pass away, those feelings of that deep connection that you had with them, even though it's painful at first, but there's just a satisfaction that I did my best. So allowing yourself to acknowledge these emotions does not mean that you love the person any less. You can be frustrated and still love them. You can feel resentful and still love them. You can feel helpless and still love them. So you can feel all these negative emotions. You can still be angry and still love them. You can be frustrated with them and still love them. So it does not mean, just because you're feeling these emotions, it does not mean that you love the person any less. No, it means that you are human. It's important to give yourself that permission to feel what you are feeling, deal with what you are feeling so that you can heal what you are feeling. So it's important to give yourself permission to feel what you are feeling. So if you are currently caring for someone, if you have a loved one whose illness is slowly changing them and you don't understand what is going on with them and with you, please know that what you are feeling is real. You are not imagining the grief. You are not imagining the pain. You are not imagining the confusion. You are not imagining the helplessness. It is there. Acknowledge it. But then know that the grief is already beginning. Even before you have lost this person physically, already in your spirit, you are grieving them. And if that is you, I want you to know that you are not alone. Many people around the world go through the same. They are actually going through the same as we speak. So anticipatory grief is one of the most complex forms of love. You love someone while you are slowly preparing your heart for goodbye. And this is hard. This is very, very hard. So if you'd like to explore the emotional journey of grief more deeply, you can download my free guide, When Loss Changes Everything, from our website at ariselifecoaching.net. If this has helped you, please share it with someone who might need it. And you are welcome to subscribe if you'd like more conversations like this. And always remember, you are allowed to feel. You are allowed. And thank you for being here.